about the conflict.
I am Ukrainian. Do you have any questions? I will try to answer them.
How much longer do you think this will last?
I don't know. I'm not Baba Vanga. The question is meaningless.
I simply wanted to hear your point of view on this.
I answered you. In my opinion, the question is meaningless.
So you believe that it could last for a long time?
It could end tomorrow, or it could go on for decades. I don't know.
I don't know. I understand. But what about your own perspective? What, if you could say, would be your desired outcome for this conflict?
Ukraine's.
So you believe that Ukraine can achieve victory?
Belief is a concept that simply cannot be verified. When Ukraine achieves victory, then my conviction and belief will truly be confirmed.
Well, so you believe that Ukraine can win?
I earnestly wish for Ukraine to win this conflict.
And how would that victory manifest itself exactly?
At the very least, victory would manifest as Russian troops retreating from the sovereign territory of Ukraine, specifically within the recognized borders of 1991. Ideally, I would also wish for the Russian Federation as a sovereign state to have completely ceased its existence, because it poses a threat not only to its neighbors but to the world, as it also possesses nuclear weapons.
And the world's largest arsenal.
Perhaps for this very reason, I would wish for the Russian Federation as a state to break apart into individual states.
Well, if we try to think about this logically, what is it that we end up getting? Ukraine is running out of weapons, and there is almost no ammunition remaining. The West has stopped helping.
Stopped helping is definitely an exaggeration. The assistance has decreased 100%. It would be foolish to deny the obvious, but that is the situation as of this moment. Tomorrow it's possible the aid will increase and, well, you know, the situation could change. Or it might not change and the war could drag on for years, if not decades. So there's no point in trying to guess without basis.
Will Ukraine have enough human resources for 10?
Maybe it won't be enough. Anything is possible in this life. I'm not ruling out any possibility. You asked what it is I would want? I have already answered that question for you, and now I trust I might ask you a question in return.
Of course, of course.
How do you see it? Who attacked whom in this conflict? Russia attacking Ukraine or Ukraine attacking Russia? It's the simplest of questions.
I would say that there wasn't a direct attack of that kind, neither from one side nor the other.
So how exactly did this war begin?
According to all the official...
This is your point of view.
My point of view, just like everyone else's, is that a civil war started in Ukraine.
Okay, let's say I agree with you. And?
So, a part of Ukraine, namely Donetsk and Luhansk, they specifically requested for help from Russia.
I understand. Is there somewhere I can review this document? I have my phone right here with me. Where exactly did the Luhansk and Donetsk regions ask for help? I mean, show me an official document of some kind. I haven't seen anything like that.
I haven't seen that either, but I'm talking about what I have seen with my own eyes, for instance.
I would really like to see a document regarding the Luhansk and Donetsk regions. What exactly do you have in mind? Are you referring to the regional administrations of Ukraine or perhaps some separatist organizations?
Well, I understand it was probably the separatist organizations.
Well, they're separatist organizations. That's why they're separatists. So Ukraine should fight them, don't you think? Or should we not fight against separatism?
The thing is, the Minsk agreements were actually signed, and according to those agreements,
we will eventually get to the Minsk agreements.
But under the terms of the Minsk agreements, Donbass was supposed to remain part of Ukraine, wasn't it?
But it didn't stay that way. The Russians withdrew their troops according to the Minsk agreements, but instead they seized Ilovaisk, which was a clear violation of those agreements.
My understanding is that there were no military actions after the agreements.
That's your understanding. Perhaps you weren't following the events correctly. Nevertheless, I'd like to get back to the core question. Does Ukraine possess the right to combat separatism, or does it not?
That depends on the methods used.
By any means necessary against separatists, any means. They are terrorists. You have to fight them with any available methods.
To me, Ukraine's more of a terrorist.
Well, that's just your point of view. But I asked you, does any state, and we're not talking specifically about Ukraine here, have the right to combat internal separatism, or is it not necessarily required?
I said it depends on methods.
What methods would you personally consider acceptable in the fight against separatists?
Negotiate diplomacy.
Diplomacy with separatists? So that's how it is. Then why didn't the Russian Federation negotiate with the Chechen separatists?
Because the Chechen separatists were not representing the views of the entire Chechen population.
Oh, I understand some things. And what about the Luhansk and Donetsk separatists? Those individuals about whom it's not even clear if they ever appealed to the Russian Federation. Are those the individuals you believe are deserving of negotiations?
Of course.
I see.
The vast majority of the people expressed their support for it. A referendum was conducted.
That's an excellent question regarding the referendum. Do you comprehend that a referendum is a procedure which corresponds to a certain law, or is it merely tossing some papers into ballot boxes?
Well, a referendum is a vote.
Wait, it's a legal procedure. There needs to be a law that stipulates how to set up commissions, how to cast votes, how to tally them, or is it that people simply show up, toss ballots into boxes, and we then consider that the expression of the people's will?
But I'll put it this way. Given the circumstances under which the referendum was conducted there in the Donbas, those formalities were
not followed. It's like two individuals just showed up at some arbitrary location, cast some papers into various ballot boxes, and we're expected to accept that as the expression of the people's will. Is that truly the correct understanding?
not 2 people.
22 people.
Well, how do you know?
Well, I don't know either. You yourself stated that it was the majority. How can one possibly determine that, based on the results of the referendum?
Well, yes.
But a referendum has to be held according to some kind of law. In your opinion, what law was that referendum based on? Let me finish my thought. Was it according to Russian law or Ukrainian law? Or did the separatists perhaps pass their own specific law for the referendum?
Well, I actually don't know.
You don't know, I see. We need to engage in talks with the separatists. You're unaware of the specific law under which the referendum was conducted, yet you acknowledge that the majority cast their votes in favor. How intriguing.
But let me ask you this. Do you actually believe that the majority of Ukrainians backed the change of power during the Maidan events in 2014?
Yes, I do.
Well, I don't.
But that's your right.
Because immediately following the events of Maidan Square,
Okay.
separatist movements began. Prior to that, they didn't exist. Why is that?
Separatist movements did not originate there. You have the chronology a bit. Well, your chronology is a bit mixed up. Any separatist movements that may have started actually began in the Donbas region sometime in the spring of 2014. By that time, Russian troops had already seized Crimea, where there were absolutely no separatist movements, none at all.
But there was the Crimean Parliament
Which did what?
which conducted a referendum.
Again, the question is,
Again, the question, yes. According to what law? Ukrainian, Russian, or did the Crimean Parliament manage to adopt its own law in time? I have no idea.
no idea. You see how interesting it is. Any referendum held in an occupied territory, not a single decent person in the world, and there were none, recognized this referendum. Not one country recognized it.
But they weren't occupied then.
They were occupied. From February 2014 onwards, Crimea has been under occupation. You haven't read the Minsk OSCE Declaration nor the Lisbon OSCE Declaration. I feel like you haven't read any of these documents.
No, I haven't.
You haven't. Shall we read them? No, we won't. It's too hard.
What for?
Exactly.
What's the point?
Well, in order to properly assess whether your way of thinking is accurate, whether your understanding of the world properly corresponds to objective reality.
Well, I have my own, let's say...
You have your own objective reality. Okay, I get it. Wonderful.
Whether it's objective or not isn't for me to judge.
It's not for you to judge, yet you still claim to know for a fact that a referendum was held and the majority voted. I, for one, am not so sure about that. I cannot comprehend what law that referendum was based upon.
That's not really that important anymore.
No, it's actually extremely important.
Currently, the residents of Crimea live happily, all content.
They could live and be joyful. Allow me to provide you with such an example. When the Germans entered the territory, there's a place called Lokot, a settlement in what was either the Yaroslavl or Oriol region, and it kept changing, and the locals joyfully welcomed the occupiers. The Lokot Republic was established toward the close of 1941. The Germans acknowledged this republic, and its people lived comfortably. They hoisted up these tricolor Russian flags, were provided with 2 SS volunteer divisions, the 29th and 30th, and thrived perfectly well under occupation. This truly is a historical fact. He does not deny in any way whatsoever the occupation of a part of the Soviet Union's territory by German forces. And the residents were happy with this situation. It's the same here. It's possible that some Crimeans are happy about this situation. This, however, does not in any way negate the fact that Russia occupied these territories. That argument is a different story altogether.
Well, it wasn't exactly an occupation like that.
Oh, really? Was it a crooked occupation then? Let me read you a couple of international documents. Or do you not need me to?
If it's brief.
If it isn't going to take too long, then absolutely it's no problem at all. Everything you could possibly desire is right at my fingertips. Let's open the 2017 Minsk OSCE Declaration. This is the OSCE. It's on page 37, specifically item number 18. I'm looking for page 37. Here it is. And I am now searching for paragraph 18. I won't read through the preceding 17 paragraphs, just the 18th. The OSCE Parliamentary Assembly in 2017, I must emphasize, declares its complete respect for the sovereignty, independence, unity, and territorial integrity of Ukraine within its internationally recognized borders, which regrettably include, and I'm adding this part, the autonomous Republic of Crimea and the city of Sevastopol, and even paragraph 19, but this is enough. And it also declares its condemnation of the temporary occupation of the Autonomous Republic of Crimea and the city of Sevastopol by the Russian Federation, as well as Russia's continuous hybrid aggression against Ukraine in Donbass. This is just one declaration among others. There are 2 additional declarations. So since 2017, according to the declaration, Crimea is occupied by Russia. Direct occupation, indirect, temporary.
Well, I don't think it's temporary.
Well, you don't think so, but I do. The argument isn't about what you and I think. It's about whether it's an occupation or not. I'm telling you, it is an occupation. The international community says it's an occupation, and you say the people are happy. And I'm giving you the example of the Lokot Republic in Russia. Were the people happy when the Germans arrived? They voluntarily formed 2 divisions.
To be honest, I've never heard of it.
Well, you should look it up on the internet.
The net?
More than 2 million citizens of the Soviet Union willingly and voluntarily, I emphasize, voluntarily enlisted to serve in the Wehrmacht. Such things happen, and there are specific reasons for it.
I haven't heard about that.
But that doesn't deny it. It's known as collaborationism. It's a very straightforward concept. Although it's complex, it's simple. It's military service on the side of the enemy. That's how it is. This doesn't negate the occupation as such. Stepan Bandera was not a cold collaborationist. First and foremost, Because collaborationism is defined as working for another nation to the detriment of one's own state, and a state like Ukraine did not exist. That's the first point. And secondly, Stepan Bandera did not cooperate with the Nazis. He was in a concentration camp from 1941 to 1944 and refused to cooperate with the Nazis. There are tons of German documents from when he was interrogated. And the German who interrogated him wrote that they offered him a deal to cooperate with Germany, but he said, and I quote, "He harbors no fondness for the Russians, the Soviets, or even the Germans. The rascal, he simply refuses to cooperate." That's a poor example. However, I don't deny that a portion of the residents from the Soviet Union, specifically from the territories of Soviet Ukraine, also offered their support to the Germans. However, that does not negate the occupation as an established fact. The fact remains clear, and attitudes towards it can differ. Some may support it while others actively oppose it.
I see. Another question. Please tell me, what does Ukraine stand to lose if Russia were to capitulate at this moment?
What does Ukraine lose? It loses nothing.
What if Ukraine now says, "That's it, we agree to any terms"?
No, we do not agree to any terms.
Just for the war to end, for casualties to cease, for no more deaths.
We only agree to the conditions of returning to the 1991 borders, in accordance with the 1997 treaty between Russia and Ukraine, which Russia, for some reason, violated.
But realistically, it's impossible to reach those borders now, even the 1991 borders.
You know, back in 1968, when students in France were protesting, they had a really powerful and effective slogan, "Be realistic, demand the impossible." So, as a realist, I demand the impossible, the return of Ukraine to its 1991 borders. And let Russia get the hell out of my territory. By the way, where exactly are you located geographically at the moment?
Germany.
In Germany. Where do you come from?
Kazakhstan.
From Kazakhstan. And what is your ethnicity?
I'm Russian.
I'm Russian.
My mother's German, my dad's Russian, thanks to my mom.
You are of mixed origin. I understand that now. Any other questions?
Well, no, I still haven't heard an answer. So what will Ukraine lose if...
Ukraine will lose nothing if Russia withdraws its troops.
No, but what if it still says that's it?
Who? It?
The government, not it. The government says.
Whose? Russia or Ukraine?
Your government.
Okay, what will it say?
It will declare that's it, we can no longer continue this war.
Right.
There's no money, no soldiers, no weapons, nothing at all.
So?
We agree to any terms.
No, nobody is going to agree to just any conditions. Ukraine will put forward its own set of terms. Russia can put forward its conditions, and as a result of some compromise, if diplomats come to an agreement, that's the language of diplomacy. But to simply agree to all terms and conditions, that just doesn't happen in history. It just doesn't happen. You understand?
As a rule, history is written by the victor.
Oh, history written by the victor. No one's won yet.
Well, I'm speaking generally.
Ukraine will not agree to just any terms. What's not clear about that? Ukraine will nonetheless put forward specific conditions, and Russia will also propose its own terms and conditions. And through a compromise, perhaps something can be achieved. But that's precisely what it must be, a compromise. Russia must also concede something like withdrawing its troops from some location. From where, I don't know. I don't know what compromise the Russian leadership would agree to. For example, what if they withdrew their troops from Crimea and we in turn didn't occupy the Belgorod region? Could such a compromise be possible?
No.
Impossible.
But you can't occupy the Belgorod region.
Well, not right now, but perhaps tomorrow we'll occupy it and then we'd be agreeable to exchanging the Belgorod region for Crimea. Why shouldn't we?
If circumstances were to align like that, then yes, that kind of bargain could happen.
That's the point.
But as it stands, Ukraine is losing more and more.
No, it's not going that way yet. We have only lost Avdiivka in the past year, and that's the only significant loss we've had.
Soon, Chasiv Yar will be next.
And Chasiv Yar, yes, we will lose these two settlements. But if we consider the past 2 years, specifically since the extensive aggression by the Russian Federation commenced in 2022, Russia has forfeited portions of the Kiev, Zhytomyr, Chernihiv, Sumy, and even Kharkiv regions. And that's not even mentioning the fact that about 25 to 30% of the Russian fleet has been sunk and is now feeding the fish. Therefore, I truly don't perceive this situation as a significant or active victory for Russia. Avdiivka, yes. Chasiv Yar is still up in the air. These are only minor settlements. They aren't even provincial capitals.
But my point is that the movement is still going in that direction.
No, absolutely not. It's not. The Russian fleet is going to the bottom. Almost all the ships have already been moved to Novorossiysk.
Well, that's right.
So you see, it's a two-way street. It's a two-way street. While we might be forced to retreat on land in some areas, we are achieving successes at sea, therefore.
At sea, well, success is there.
Even though we don't have a fleet.
I was about to say, you hit them with drones.
Well, that's what war is like, you know. We might have retreated here, but we've achieved some definite successes elsewhere. That's just how it goes. Well, about 10% of Russia's oil refineries, under the influence of our drones, have had their operations called into question. These things happen sometimes. Therefore, to occupy, as it were, the Belgorod region, why not? You capture, and by you I mean Russia, you capture Chasiv Yar, and we take Belgorod. Then we'll offer to exchange Belgorod for Crimea.
But for you to reach Belgorod...
We'll get there, don't you worry. Our unmanned aerial vehicles are already reaching the Urals. So we'll take Belgorod in a heartbeat if necessary. If our command decides it's necessary to deal with this situation. What I don't grasp is something else entirely. Why do you, a person of mixed ethnic heritage, sitting in Germany, a democratic nation that has experienced firsthand what Nazism truly is and the bitter taste of defeat in World War II, so fervently support Russia?
Because I sincerely believe that Russia is in the right.
In what sense? In that it's seizing foreign territories?
You could say that.
And where are you? How is that right?
Or you could say it's taking back its own...
No, it's not taking back what belongs to it. There's a concept of international law. How can one reside in Germany and fail to comprehend such a fundamental concept as international law? That Russia has indeed violated international law, this is something I truly cannot fathom. Do you truly disregard legislation so casually?
No, you see, what's the deal? Russia wasn't the first to violate this international law. And Russia isn't the only country that has violated it.
Yes. If someone broke the traffic laws, and it wasn't me, but rather someone else did it first, then I am completely justified and have the full right to disregard traffic laws until I meet the first police officer. Well, that's roughly your line of reasoning. If someone else violated international law, that doesn't grant me an indulgence to violate international law myself. If someone else violated traffic regulations, it does not mean that I am also permitted to violate them. It means that he's a scoundrel, a bad person, and he violated them. I should call the police and that person should receive a fine. And I, for my part, must sacredly and scrupulously adhere to traffic laws, because if I don't, I'll either get run over myself or I'll run someone else over. But your logic seems to be, if someone else violated the traffic laws, I'm permitted to violate them as well, simply because I wasn't the initial offender. Isn't that right?
Well, not exactly.
Well, how then? So where's the question mark? Where is it illogical?
I'll put it this way, Russia. Well, then again, in the words of the Russian government...
No, I'm trying to ask you.
...is defending its interests.
Right, but couldn't one simply defend their own interests without having to violently break into a neighbor's apartment? Like my neighbor has a dog and it barks constantly in the evening. Well, it's a little unpleasant, but I'm not going to force my way in. I'd just say, your little dog is barking a bit. I'm not suggesting that simply because your dog barks, I'll grab an axe, force my way into your place and, cut you up along with your dog. But that would never even enter my thoughts, yet it apparently occurs to Russians. I find myself wondering why that is the case.
And what if the neighbor sicks his dog on you?
No, he's not sicking his dog on me. It's just barking on its own. It has some problems over there. For instance, here in our country we had the Maidan, and we faced some internal issues. And suddenly Russia gets involved saying, oh, you have internal problems here? We'll solve your problems for you. That's a violation of the treaty.
However, at the Maidan, when you claim to have had internal problems, everyone was jumping and shouting.
Jumping, yes. But first of all, not everyone was jumping. That's just what they showed you on TV. What exactly should I search for to see what all the fuss on Maidan was about? On Maidan, my respected friend. How should I call you?
Anatoly.
Anatoly. Oh, I apologize, I forgot. My name is Vitaly. Anatoly, at Maidan, there was a small tent proudly displaying a Russian flag. There were citizens of the Russian Federation there who supported Maidan. And I never saw anyone on Maidan jumping and shouting Russians to the gallows. I just didn't see it. And no matter how many times I've asked people face to face to show it to me, everyone claims they've seen it.
Yuri Loza, the Ukrainian that is, the Russian musician, is all over the internet claiming the earth is flat. Am I really expected to believe Yuri Loza? He isn't actually proving it. He's saying that, in my opinion.
He proves his point, he explains and presents his arguments. And no matter how many times I ask Anatoly to show me evidence of people supposedly jumping at Maidan, even if that were the case, what does it matter? If a neighbor's dog is jumping around and barking loudly in their apartment and I hear it, I'd find its barking quite unpleasant. The same logic applies to Russians. Someone's jumping in Ukraine, someone is shouting. As a Russian, I find it unpleasant that they're jumping around and shouting some offensive words. But it is their territory. I can approach them, make a request, or try to reach an agreement.
They're neighbors, it's right.
And we are neighbors. Russia and Ukraine are neighbors. Why is it that when people were chanting in our country, nobody came to us and said, neighbors, you're behaving in a certain manner, let's try to resolve this amicably? No, the neighbor decided to barge in. Where? Hold on. No, you claimed they were chanting on the Maidan. That's the argument you presented. I have not witnessed that even once. But I'll concede that maybe someone was chanting. What was the Russian leadership's statement regarding this? Was it an appeal to the international court? Was it, hey, they're protesting incorrectly over there? It was more like, let's bring in an arbitrator and we can sort out these matters. There was never even one statement made to that effect. Everything was perfectly normal. Yanukovych received $3 billion to put an end to the protests. Well, before signing the association agreement with the European Union, Yanukovych flew to Moscow, received $3 billion from Putin, and then subsequently flew to Vilnius. It's time to sign the association agreement with the European Union. Merkel approaches,